Hi everyone, my name is Nick, and today we're going to go over 5 interesting, unusual Hoyas. Hoyas are commonly referred to as wax plants or porcelain flowers, and they have been quite the hot commodity over the last couple years of this houseplant craze. So I just wanted to spotlight a couple that I think are very interesting and unusual that also are easy enough to find and don't have a high price tag, because I know there's a lot of unusual, interesting Hoyas out there that are in the at least triple figures of price, which is sometimes a little hard to swallow, specifically when you're buying a Hoya, which is such a small itty bitty plant typically when you purchase it, unless you're very lucky. So let's just go ahead and get started today. So the first one I would love to talk about is this Hoya cumingiana, and they commonly call this the bush Hoya, I believe. And you might notice that this looks a little bit different from your standard Hoya carnosa, let's say, right off the bat, and the fact that it is growing upright and staying upright, and that's why they call this the bush Hoya. I think this is also called, or referred to, this type of Hoya is referred to as like a shrub-like Hoya, where they grow like a shrub instead of the Hoyas that will kind of vine and twine. And this will still like grab onto a trellis and stuff over time, but compared to like a Hoya carnosa or a pubicalyx that are just going to be like winding all over and trailing for days if you let it grow like that, this one just grows in a little bit of a different fashion, which I think is quite wonderful. Hoyas overall enjoy bright light, and they also prefer a well-draining soil. In other words, they don't like to be sitting in water, so they don't want to be watered too often either. But you do want to, pay enough mind to your Hoyas that you're not underwatering them, because they do have roots that will dry up and just kind of die on you if you just pay them no attention. So you can't treat them exactly like a succulent or a cactus, let's say. They do need a little bit more attention than that, but otherwise I think their care is pretty similar. But this Hoya cumingiana is one that I've seen just a little bit on the market, and it doesn't have a high price tag. It's not difficult to find. I got mine from Logis, as you can see right here, but I think Steve's Leaves also sells this plant, and I'm sure this is one that just really isn't difficult to find. You might even find this one at a plant store these days. I'm not too sure about that, but a really wonderful Hoya that's just a little bit different, but once again, not hard to find. And let's talk about this one right here next. So this is a little cutie. So this is called Hoya Vicinioides. And the lady who actually gave me this Hoya, it was labeled in her greenhouse as Hoya Webella, which I think is actually the prior name for this plant. But I think that's just such a fitting name, because if you're familiar with Hoya Bella, which looks kind of similar with just elongated leaves, this totally looks like a mini version of Hoya Bella. So Webella is a very, very fitting name, but I'm not mad at Vicinioides either. It's kind of a fun name. And this is just one little vine of a Hoya that I have coming out of a pot, as it was just given to me as a cutting. But it's adorable, and it's not hard to grow. It's got little fuzzy leaves, so it kind of reminds me a little bit more of like Hoya serpens, if you're at all familiar with its tiny fuzzy leaves. So I think that's quite dainty and lovely. But it's just such a wonderful, not really problem-causing Hoya. It doesn't really call on the mealybug, which is something that Hoya Bella has done for me in my home. So I'm quite fond of this one for that reason. It's been decently or completely pest-free. I'm sure if I look hard enough, I can find something on here, you know what I mean? There's always a mealybug hiding somewhere on my Hoyas, but this one has been very easygoing in that nature, which I really appreciate, because some of these smaller leaved Hoyas, and the fuzzy ones in particular, can be real magnets when it comes to the mealybug. So this one's been giving me nothing but joy, I guess. And moving on, I have this wonderful Hoya Fitchy Eye right here. So this is a very lovely Hoya in the sense that the foliage is just really quite nice. I think I've heard people say that they think Hoya are boring, dare I say it, because their foliage all looks similar. So here's a Hoya that's got some really nice venation in its leaves, and I think it's just something that is just so lovely. And I've had this Hoya Fitchy Eye for over a year at this point. I believe I traded a friend for this plant well over a year ago at this point, and hasn't done a single thing for me. But you know what? It not doing a single thing includes it not losing any leaves, so that's very good. So I can't complain about that. But in due time, maybe this Hoya Fitchy Eye will do something or other for me. I'd really love it. But I'm just all about the venation of this plant, and I believe my friend who I traded this for got this from Logis as well. So plants on Logis really aren't that expensive, compared to some other places out there. Their prices are a good price. So this is one that is decently accessible, and I'm sure you could probably find this on Etsy, and any of these as well I'm sure you could find on Etsy, because that is like the hot place to buy and sell plants at the moment, apparently. But yeah, this Hoya Fitchy Eye is one that really just doesn't disappoint me, even though it really hasn't done anything. But maybe I should consider giving it a little bit of a fertilizer or something, because as I said, we have had it for quite some time, so it's been living in this soil for that long as well, so maybe I should try that out or something. But just such a fun plant, even though it hasn't done anything for me really. I did want to spotlight it today because I think it really does have such an appealing look to it. It's quite wonderful. And I have this other Hoya right here that looks kind of similar to the Hoya cumingiana in the way that it's growing. This is called Hoya Iris Marie, and this is like my vibe when it comes to Hoyas. This is just like a little plain, I feel like is the best way to put it, but that's like totally what I love about this. It's just this like wily vine of Hoya, and it's very, very easy to grow. This one I've had for, I'd say, about a year at this point, maybe pushing that. I really don't remember exactly, but this one's grown a lot for me in the time that I've had it, and I really should consider this giving this one the snips and just make this a full pot of Hoya Iris Marie, because this is just one long fun vine, which I absolutely love the character that this has. But you know what, I think I might just appreciate a full pot at this point. But this one has been just so fun and easy going, and I love the way that it almost doesn't even like blend in with my Hoyas. This one, and I'd say like the Hoya cumingiana as well, if I just like grouped all of my Hoyas together in a group, I think these two would stick out like a sore thumb for just being different. So that's what I really appreciate about this. I do think I got this one, I did get this one from Logi's as well, and my price tag says $14.95 on it, so I don't think that's a very high price for something that's done so well for me in my home. So that is just such a joy, and anything on Logi's, if I can get it, you can get it, because it's just the click of a button as long as they have it in stock. Sometimes you have to set up for the reminders for them to notify you when things are in stock, because plants are hot these days and Hoyas are hot, and sometimes they go pretty fast, so just something to keep in mind. But this Hoya Iris Marie is definitely one of my Logi's purchases that I do not regret whatsoever, because this plant is just such an easy grower and just such a lovely plant. I just love having it just drape over my other plants and the display that it's sitting in, because it's kind of blends in and just meanders about. It's quite lovely. And we have one last Hoya to go over today. So this is a Hoya Coronaria, and I adore this Hoya because it is like the Hoya version of Peperomia incana, which is one of my favorite peperomias. If you watch my videos, you might know that I am a collector of peperomia, and I really enjoy them. And this one really does remind me of one of my favorite peperomias. It's just dead on like it. Really, the leaves look so similar. It's a little dirty because I was just cleaning up recently, and the shelf and got dirt and perlite everywhere, and I guess I didn't pay enough mind to clean it up. Doesn't matter. But this one is just such an interesting Hoya. Also kind of stands out amongst the rest as being different. I really enjoyed these felted fuzzy leaves. The entirety of the plant is just completely felted, which is lovely. I am such a huge fan of fuzzy plants to begin with, so this one really just stands out to me as a really interesting, unusual Hoya, so I certainly have to share it with you guys. And I do think it's just so cool that it's kind of like an imposter plant to Peperomia incana, so it just makes me love it even more. I didn't really talk too much about the care on all of these Hoyas today, because really all my Hoyas just have such similar care, where they really just, like I said, they don't want to be overwatered, but they don't want to be forgotten about, and they kind of thrive in a space that's like maybe like 2 to 6 feet away from a bright windowsill, or if you have kind of like a more shaded windowsill, putting it right in the window, say like a north or an east facing window, they would absolutely thrive. Although there are some Hoyas that really would also thrive getting completely fried in like a southern facing window, but you do kind of want to ease them into that, as they could burn and just kind of not do too well and shrivel up on you, so just something to keep in mind. But Hoyas are just such fun, incredible plants, and I think it's so exciting that they've been getting so popular lately, because there is just a lot to love about them. So that's going to do it for today's video. I would love to hear what Hoyas you guys are collecting in your homes, because there are just so many, and like I said, there's just so much to love. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you don't already, follow me on Instagram at Philly Foliage, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video. Have a great day!